in as little time as possible and hopefully still teach you guys something. Okay, menstrual cycle, typically 28 days, but it can range and still be totally normal. It starts the first day of bleeding, so the first day that the period begins is cycle day 1. During this time, all of our hormones are pretty low. Estrogen, which is this pink line, low. FSH, blue line, low. Progesterone, low. Luteinizing hormone, low. So you can imagine why we feel kind of low when we're on our period. We're tired, whatever. But we have these follicles that are starting to grow and gather and recruit other follicles to come together. And these follicles produce estrogen. So now we see this rise in estrogen here as these follicles mature. And then there's something called a negative feedback loop. So as this estrogen rises, FSH and LH are going to decrease. They're opposing factors. So we see the rise here and then the decrease in FSH. And FSH is what's telling these follicles to grow. But then they've recruited a dominant follicle, this big guy here, and he starts producing massive amounts of estrogen. This surge in estrogen from this dominant follicle switches the negative feedback to a positive feedback loop. So now we see this increase in FSH and this increase in LH. And LH is important for ovulation. This surge in luteinizing hormone tells this surge in luteinizing hormone tells this follicle to rupture and release the oocyte, because that oocyte needs to go find a sperm and make a baby. So this is that ovulation time. It's about day 14 of the cycle, so in the middle of your cycle. And then here we've got estrogen surge, luteinizing hormone surge, FSH surge. This is the time where we're also feeling kind of frisky and our skin's glowing and you were kind of horny and all that stuff, because it's telling your body like this is the time to have a baby, make a baby. But let's say a baby doesn't happen and this oocyte never reaches any sperm. In its place, a corpus luteum forms. It's kind of like the wound left over after this follicle ruptures out of it. And it produces something called progesterone. And progesterone is this green line. Progesterone, as it increases, going back to that negative feedback loop, it tells estrogen and luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone to decrease. So progesterone goes up, everything else goes down. But this corpus luteum also produces a little bit of estrogen. So then we see this estrogen kind of starts to creep up a little bit too. That's from this corpus luteum. And during this time, the uterus is getting prepared for a baby. It's getting more vascular. It's getting, thinner. It's getting ready for implantation. But if implantation doesn't happen, then that corpus luteum will die. And when it dies, progesterone plummets quickly, estrogen plummets, everything's going way down. But that also tells FSH, we need to go up because this estrogen is now going down. Negative feedback loop, which that then starts our process all the way back over to here. And this withdrawal of progesterone, this sharp decline, is what starts your menses. This is what sheds the uterine lining. After that progesterone plummets, the uterine lining sloughs off, and that's how we get back to day 1. And if we want to quickly go over how birth control fits into this, there's combination birth control, which is estrogen and progesterone. Think of the green and pink lines as a constant line because it gives a constant amount of these hormones. So if we have this constant estrogen and progesterone, we're not going to have luteinizing hormone and FSH because of the negative feedback loop. So then we're not going to release the oocyte, so then you're not going to get pregnant. That's how that works. And let's talk about fertility a little bit. This ovulation window is the window when you can get pregnant. This is when the oocyte is out and it can be fertilized, 24 to 48 hours after it's released, it can be fertilized. So it's a very small window, but sperm, those little buggers, can live in the uterine cavity for 5 days or something crazy. So they can be already waiting for that egg, and as soon as it comes, the sperm's already there ready to go. So that's how you get pregnant. There's that. Let me know if you have questions.